Welcome back to the Psychological Paradigm Shift podcast. I am Ed Rieger, your host. I hope you found the last episode informational and helpful. As always, remember, I am only providing my personal opinions based on my experiences and education on psychological topics. We will be talking about mental illness in a very blunt, transparent manner. The topics may be disturbing to some, and it will never be my intent to hurt anyone. I want to only share my ideas and thoughts. Let's get started. So tonight we're going to talk about Chapter 2 of my book, How Not to Date or Marry the Mentally Ill. And Chapter 2 is Shedding the Parental Skin, ages 18 to 30. If you are mentally healthy and interacting with someone with induced mental illness, this timeline will be the most critical of all. If they have survived the traumas they received as children and not received therapy to help them heal, then the wounds are still there and they are now very infected. This is why I created the 800 questions, or dating questions, and guide, How Not to Date or Marry the Mentally Ill. Because when dating, you must become your own psychological detective to determine the severity of your partner's illnesses, if they do suffer from some disorders. You have to determine if creating a potential long-term relationship with them is something you can handle, or is there enough red flags to make you decide, I can't continue this relationship. And for the folks suffering from psychological issues, that may be the first time you have been exposed to this information, and I hope this guide will help show you a path to better mental health as you go forward. As we go through the 800 plus questions in future episodes, the groundwork we have created in these episodes will begin to really make sense. And it will give you a very strong foundation in your confidence to communicate more intimately with your current and future partners. When an induced mentally ill child reaches 18, this is a turning point for most of them. Now, it may come earlier than 18, but 18 is usually the date to work with. For mentally ill children, they are being supported. For mentally healthy children, they are being supported by parents, siblings, grandparents, and extended family. The support is directed to pursue their full potential. Mentally ill children, depending on economic abilities, are not supported by anyone and really never have been. Most mentally ill children will have to face the reality that it's time to move on from their families, maybe in a very big way. Knowing I had to get out of my family's house and wanting to do so desperately, I had my mother sign me up for the military at 17. I know now that distance, disconnection, total disassociation of my family is what I was seeking. This connection from family will become very important to understand about the induced mentally ill as we move through future episodes. I was fortunate to be able to join the military, where I was secure physically and fed daily. For some of my family members, they weren't as lucky. Instead of parents helping them find a safe, secure environment, they helped them find the streets, abandoned on the streets with no money, no shelter, no food, no hope, and no love from family. This is what happens when these children are aged out, as the term goes. And it doesn't matter if you're in foster care or your own family's home. It's time to go. If you haven't been prepared for this sudden uprooting, it will throw your brain into a frenzy. Being abandoned is a trauma, no matter what age that it happens. As we go through this timeline, 18 to 30, remember all traumas the mentally ill have experienced are still there. They've been untreated, uncured, open, and waiting to get more infected. As those young people begin to age, the signals that psychologically they are not all right begin to emerge. This is where the red flags they are waving at you become so critical. They are now beginning to create lives for themselves, and they will find ways to, and during that process, they're going to find ways to employ themselves, go to college, start serious relationships, and begin to have children. Now, some of them may start to have children earlier in their teens, but they'll start having children fairly early. Now, this is when the cracks begin to show. Remember, their normal is not your normal. Their normal was parents, siblings, and others abusing them sexually, psychologically, physically, and emotionally. All of this is being dragged into their young adult lives, and if you become romantically involved with them, yours. This is where family secrets are so important to the induced mentally ill. While you're communicating with them, you will begin to see there are events, activities, and people they do not want to discuss. There's topics about themselves, their childhood, their families that are taboo to speak about. Two of the main reasons people get divorced is the lack of communication and the lack of intimacy. I believe these secrets are the reasons. Once these young adults begin the separation from their family abusers, they begin to realize how abnormal their childhoods really were. Even though consciously they can't verbalize it yet, or maybe never, their subconscious knows it just hasn't or can't open those wounds at this time. They don't have the tools. They're unaware, uninformed, unknowing. The pain is so deep and excruciating, they haven't begun the healing process yet. And unfortunately for many, they may never will. Once the induced mentally ill begin to participate in the dating pool, this is when they become the most dangerous to the mentally healthy and each other. Even though the mentally healthy are extremely vulnerable to the actions and behaviors of the induced mentally ill, so they are to each other. Excuse me, sorry. Because students in America have not been taught about the multiple psychological disorders we humans can have, and we are all vulnerable to the effects of. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. As they age, we begin to see the effects of their traumas very clearly. We start to see their self-destructive behaviors with abusing alcohol, drugs, sex, and a variety of multiple abuses. That's why millions of people enter rehab facilities every year and spend billions of dollars. When these self-destructive activities begin, they will be slow and steady to their ultimate landing spot. Full alcoholism, complete drug addiction, total sex addiction, and many other things. Others may self-destruct with other vehicles like finances. That's why so many Americans declare bankruptcy every year. Financial issues is one of the top 5 reasons couples get divorced in America. Financial destruction may lead to homelessness. When I was 26, I owned a company, and because I was so psychologically damaged, I lost the business. I owed a massive IRS tax bill and became homeless again. Fortunately, I was single at the time, and I didn't destroy a romantic partner or children along with me. From 18 to 30, the induced mentally ill will start to carve an exact path for themselves and, unfortunately, maybe for others. This becomes a very clear distinction for you in deciding to date or marry the induced mentally ill. Let's talk about the two kinds of induced mentally ill individuals at this point, so you have a clearer, better understanding of what and who you're dealing with. At this point, the induced mentally ill are going to make a decision about themselves. They are going to choose to continue down a path where they will not analyze their childhood traumas. They will never try to heal themselves or seek help to do so. They may have already committed such severe abuses against their own siblings and others that are so horrific, they will never be able to face the ugliness of themselves. These folks we are going to call chaos chasers. They grew up in a psychological chaos, and they will always live in chaos. They will duplicate the abuses that they suffered, maybe with different twist, but just as damaging to themselves and their victims. The other induced mentally ill will call the fog lifter. This person has struggled with alcoholism, drug addiction, financial devastation, or multiple other life-altering events, and has decided to change their paradigms. They accept their psychological illnesses and are willing to self-analyze themselves and to get help from professionals from a psychiatric basis. They know they have to change their brain's function and are willing to do whatever it will take to become more mentally healthy. The big question will be, do you create a relationship with either one? Let's tackle that in the next episode. Thank you for sharing time with me tonight. I hope this information was helpful to you as we progress through our psychological paradigm shift. I look forward to next week's episode. Take care of yourselves.